Welcome to the Bowers Museum. My name is Alfred Haft, Curator of Japanese Art in the Department of Asia at the British Museum, and the curator of Beyond the Great Wave, works by Hokusai from the British Museum. It's my pleasure to guide you through a virtual highlights tour of this exhibition. While this online journey provides a sneak preview, nothing compares to seeing these magnificent works in person. I'd love for you to visit before the exhibition closes on January 7th, 2024. Beyond this exhibit, 8 additional permanent galleries await you, showcasing diverse collections from across the globe, as well as one other featured exhibition entitled The Power of Photography. Embark on this cultural journey by booking your visit at bowers.org today. The presentation of this exhibition is a collaboration between the British Museum and the Bowers Museum. So this exhibition covers Hokusai's career from around 1790 to the end of his life through prints, paintings, and illustrated books, over 100 different objects. It's quite an extraordinary array of works to be able to see in person, and particularly the paintings, and as well a few drawings, finished drawings for prints that were never produced. The exhibition is organized into 6 sections. The first covers Hokusai's early career. The second explores the series that he is best known for, 36 Views of Mount Fuji. The third section explores his depiction of the natural world, the worlds as the real world. The fourth section covers worlds that are imagined, but that doesn't make them any less real. The fifth section covers a little bit about Hokusai's own world, his personal life, his relationship with his daughter. And the final section introduces some of his fantastic late paintings produced in the last 2 years of his life when he used a red seal of the number 100. Hokusai won early fame as an illustrator of books and adventure stories. He's famous for his prints, but his early fame came from designing adventure stories. And this fantastic hanging scroll, which was collected by Dr. William Anderson, depicts the famous warrior Minamoto no Tametomo on an island where he is challenging the natives to bend his mighty bow, and even as a group, they cannot manage it. This was the first Hokusai painting displayed at the British Museum and is widely recognized as one of his early masterpieces. So, after a famous series of adventure stories was published from 1807 to 1811, the publisher earned a lot of money and commissioned Hokusai to produce this commemorative painting showing the hero of that series of adventure novels, and in a famous scene which is shown in the first illustration of the first volume. So Hokusai is going back to the roots of his early fame with this fantastic painting. So the British Museum has been collecting the work of Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai since the late 1850s, with the help of 6 major collectors starting in around 1881 through around 1980. We've been able to have fantastic works come into the collection, including the painting of Tametomo, which you have just seen. The reason that we were able to acquire it is with the help of this fellow behind me, whose name is Augustus Wollaston Franks. He is sometimes counted as the second founder of the British Museum. He was a curator in the museum, but he was a fantastic collector in his own right and donated a lot of his collections to the British Museum. His specialty, though, was European art. And when Dr. William Anderson, who was the previous owner of the painting of Tametomo, approached the British Museum to say, "Would you like to purchase my collection?" The British Museum was a little surprised and wasn't sure what to do, and contacted Augustus Franks, viewed samples of the collection, and absolutely firm in his mind that there was nothing to do except purchase the collection. He was thrilled to see what Dr. Anderson had acquired, and it was his support that made it possible for the museum to move ahead and acquire the complete Anderson collection. So this is Hokusai's most famous design, possibly the most famous work of art in the world. It is a print, a woodblock print, and originally there may have been thousands of this beautiful design printed. Today, perhaps around 120 survive. It is a vision of man not competing against nature, but surviving in the struggles of nature. And the boats that we see are fishing boats that would have transported a fresh fish to the largest city at the time, the city of Edo, what we now call Tokyo. And the mountain in the background is Mount Fuji, a presence that provides comfort in this difficult situation. The wave appears to be crashing down on the boats, and yet these fishermen who are experiencing what we might call a difficult commute are struggling to get back home in these against this wave. And this example of the print happens to be very beautiful. There's a hint of the original pink clouds at the top right, and the white of the waves is very clean. So this print is part of a series, the 36 Views of Mount Fuji, in which Hokusai depicts the sacred mountain, Japan's most famous mountain, from different perspectives. And very often the famous mountain is small and in the background. It serves as a comforting presence in people's daily lives. And the subject that Hokusai is interested in is work and people at work, and the struggles that people experience in their daily lives as they go about their ordinary business. So Katsushika Hokusai, his most best known probably as a print designer, but he was also a fantastic painter. And he painted from his earliest days right until the end of his life. Most of his work in his early career was associated with what we call the floating world. The floating world is associated with the pleasure quarters, brothel districts, the theater district. He let that subject go for a couple of decades, but towards the end of his career, and in this case, 1840, he returned to the subject, probably the basis of a very important commission. And in this case, his subject is a young man. You can see his sandal at the bottom left, one sandal removed, and he has his one leg crossed over the other, and he is seated on a bench with his head tilted slightly forward in a pensive mood. And the writing at the top is a poem addressed to him from someone who is signs himself as kind of an admirer, and asking, why does he look so sad? The idea is that this is a young man, and we can tell that because of the small blue patch, which is a shaved area on the top of his head, and the tuft of hair at the front of his head. And that indicates that he's a young man before coming of age, from an admirer, and suggesting that he may be either a kabuki actor or a male prostitute. And it's amazing that Hokusai is taking on this subject towards the end of his career, and it suggests that it may have been a very important and special commission. In the late 1820s, Hokusai lost his second wife, his grandson was running up debts, and he was having personal health problems. It was a very difficult time for him, and at that point, his daughter, Oi, for some reason separated from her husband and returned to live with him, and stayed with him for the next 20 years, working side by side with Hokusai. She was a respected artist in her own right. Very little of her work has survived. Fortunately, one of her published books, which is this, an illustrated educational text for women, gives a sense of her style and her interests. And in this illustration from the book, she depicts women of all classes and all ranks in society. Hokusai started drawing at the age of 8, and he never stopped. He was drawing and painting throughout his entire life, and his last works are among his most sublime, and including this example of two ducks swimming in water with falling maple leaves. It is a fantastic combination of abstraction and realism, with the flow of the water and the movement of the ducks and the detail of particularly the one duck that is looking straight out at the viewer and engaging you and asking, "What are you doing here?" We are in the duck's territory. This is a fantastic example of the way Hokusai animates creatures, brings them alive in a way that gives them a life of their own. At the bottom left, you see the red seal that I mentioned earlier, 100, where Hokusai is willing himself to live on so that he can continue to improve, hoping every year that he lived, he's become more and more animated and vivid so that each dot and each line would appear to have a life of its own. Thank you for joining me on this virtual exploration of Beyond the Great Wave, works by Hokusai from the British Museum. For the full experience, I urge you to visit the Bowers Museum in person, where a variety of exhibition-related events are also being held. Start planning your visit today at bowers.org. Thank you, as always, for your support.